Module 2. I will discuss the discourse analysis, the relationship between language and context, discourse analysis and pragmatics, cultural ways of speaking and writing, communicative competence and discourse, and the discursive competence. So, what is discourse analysis? Discourse analysis focuses on knowledge about language beyond the word, clause, phrase, and sentence that is needed for successful communication. Discourse analysis also considers the ways that the use of language presents different views of the world and different understandings. It examines how the use of language is influenced by relationships between participants as well as the effects of the use of language as upon social identities and relations. It also considers how views of the world, course, and identities are constructed through the use of discourse. And also, discourse analysis examines both spoken and written texts. By Zell Harris in 1952, as a way of analyzing connected speech and writing, Harris had two main interests: the examination of language beyond the level of the sentence and the relationship between linguistic and non-linguistic behavior. Connected discourse occurs within a particular situation, whether of a person speaking or a conversation, or of sitting down occasionally over the period of months to write a particular kind of book in a particular literary or scientific tradition. The relationship between language and context. By the relationship between linguistic and non-linguistic behavior, Harris means how people know from the situation that they are in how to interpret what people say. Harris' point is that the expression "the runway is full of the moment" has a particular meaning in a particular situation, in this case, the landing of a plane, and may mean something different in another situation. If one says "the runway is full" at the moment to a friend who is waiting with me to pick up someone at the airport, this is now an explanation of why the plane is late landing, not an instruction to not and land the plane. Discourse analysis is interested in what happens when people draw in the knowledge they have about language to do things in the world. Discourse analysis considers the relationship between language and the context in which it is used and is concerned with the description and analysis of both spoken and written interactions. Its primary purpose, as Chimombo and Roseberry argue, provide a deeper understanding and appreciation of text, and they become meaningful to their users. The discourse analysis and pragmatics. A number of aspects of language use are discussed by people working in the area of discourse analysis are also discussed in the area of pragmatics. Pragmatics is concerned with how the interpretation of language depends on language of the real world, such as how "the runway is full" at the moment is understood as an instruction not to land a plane, rather than just a statement or fact. Pragmatics studies the uses and the effects of language by Charles Morris. Pragmatics is the study of language in use and meaning in context. The discourse structure of text. Mitchell in 1957 was one of the first researchers to examine the discourse structure of text. He looked at the ways in which people order what they say in buying and selling interactions. He looked at the overall structure of this kind of text, introducing the notion of stages into discourse analysis. That is, the steps that language users go through as they carry out particular interactions. His interest was more in the ways in which interactions are organized at an overall textual level than the ways in which language is used as. That he calls cooperative actions and how the meaning of language lies in the situational context in which it is used and in the context of the text as a whole. The communicative competence and discourse. The concept of communicative competence was originally derived from Chomsky's distinction between competence and performance. According to Chomsky in 1957, competence meant the shared knowledge of the ideal speaker-listener sent in a completely homogeneous speech community, while performance is concerned with the process of applying the underlying principle of the actual language used. In 1967, Himes introduced the concept of communicative competence, differing the theory of Chomsky on competence and performance. Himes stressed that the goal of the language instruction is building up learners' communicative competence. He made a distinction between grammatical rules of usage that enables users to construct correct sentences and the use of language to accomplish some kind of communicative purpose. Cannell and Swain in 1980 had a framework which was based on Himes' model. They exposed that competency involves grammatical, sociolinguistic, and discourse competency. In 1983, Cannell has explicated competence into four categories: the grammatical, sociolinguistic, discourse, and strategic competence. According to different definitions given, linguistic competence, which means the awareness, knowledge, understanding of a person on lexicon, mechanics, and syntax, and his or her application of this knowledge to actual situation in various contexts, gives a broader description to this so-called linguistic competency. Discourse competence, on the other hand, concerns a person's organization or of ideas, whether in speech or in writing. It primarily deals with one's understanding of how deals and words are interconnected through cohesion and use or traditional devices. It is the ability that people have to connect sentences in stretches of discourse and to form a meaningful whole out of a series of utterances. The grammatical competence focuses on sentence-level grammar. Discourse competence is concerned with inter-sentence relationship, the ability to see the bigger picture out of specific details. And sociolinguistic competence, it has been defined by experts as awareness of society rules of language emphasizing formality, politeness, and directness, underscoring that if a learner is sociolinguistically competent, he or she is aware and sensitive on nonverbal behavior and cultural references such as idioms, expressions, and background knowledge. Cohesion. Cohesion refers to relations of meaning that exist within the text and that define it as a text. Halliday and Hassan in 1976. There is cohesion when the interpretation of an element in the text is dependent on that of another. That is, cohesion is a semantic relation between an element in the text and some other elements that is crucial to the interpretation of it. Cohesion occurs where the interpretation of any item in a text or discourse requires the making of a reference to some other item in the same text or discourse. In other words, sentences are like by relational elements which combine them to a unified whole that can be called a text. Coherence. Richards, Platt and Platt in 1993 defined coherence as the relationship which link the meaning of sentences in a discourse. Coherence is the relationship which link the meaning of utterances in a discourse or of the sentence in the text. For example, the conversation of the girl and a boy. That's the telephone. I'm in the bath. Okay. There are certainly no cohesive ties within this fragment of discourse. Here we see coherence but no cohesion. The discursive competence. Discursive competence then includes not only language, related and text-level knowledge. It also includes complex factors outside of the text, which need to be taken account of for effective communication. Discursive competence, based on the definition of E.V. Schumann, is a skilled student to understand and create the most logical and coherent speech utterances presented orally or in writing. A further way of looking at cultural ways of speaking and writing is through the notion of discursive competence. Discursive competence draws together the notion of textual competence, generic competence, and social competence. The textual competence refers to the ability to produce and interpret contextually appropriate text. To do this, we draw on our linguistic, textual, contextual, and pragmatic knowledge of what typically occurs in particular text, how it is typically organized, and how it is typically interpreted. Textual competence is knowledge of regularities and convention of text, genres, and text types. It is important to distinguish text. This is closely related to how a text is translated. For instance, translating a narrative text is different from translating expository text because the structures of those texts are different. The generic competence describes how we are able to respond to both recurring and new communicative situations by constructing, interpreting, using, and exploiting conversations associated with the use of particular kind of text or genres. Generic competence describes how people are able to respond to communicate situations by constructing, interpreting, and using social conversation used in particular kind of text. The social competence describes how we use language to take part in social and institutional interactions in a way that enables us to express our social identity within the constraints of the particular social situation and communicative interaction. Social competence is an ability to use language more widely to participate effectively in a variety of social and institutional contexts to give expression to one's social identity in the context of constraining social structure and social processes.